On today's episode of Let's Find a Niche, we have Anna, one of the worst, if not the worst unit in the entire game, and for good reason too. As part of the Aether trio, she has no access to any merges whatsoever. However, she can still get flowers, but that doesn't really change all too much for her because of the fact that she just is completely outdated by this point. With a base attack of 29, she's also not really going to be hitting hard by any means. However, one notable stat of hers is her speed, because it's actually relatively high all things considered, even by today's standards. With a base of 38, it's really good. However, if you don't have the attack stat for it, you're just going to be doing 0 times 2 most of the time anyway. And then she has relatively lackluster defense and res. Her res is actually pretty workable, but her defense stat is pretty much going to be her dump stat. As you'll see, even with 15 flowers, she can only get a measly 25 defense, but she does get 31 res, which can be worked with other sorts of builds. However, her stats are not favorable by any means, and if she were to get any sort of merges, it would help out a lot more in the long run because she'd be able to get more attack. However, you can still use trait fruits if you want to give her an attack boon, raising her attack from base 29 with flowers to 32 and then a boon for 35. It's not necessarily the best, but it's a lot better than what she starts out with, so that's always nice. And then for her Bane, you would want to take defense because right now in this meta, her resistance is going to be way more important than her defense. And even though it's already low, making it lower isn't really going to make much of a difference, so it's probably best if you take her there. There is one thing I neglected to mention, and that's the fact that because she is an Aether trio unit, she has access to rotating bonus seasons. And every so often she'll be able to get bonus stats. This can raise her measly attack to 39 with the boon of course, and then raise her resistance to 35, which can actually be really good. Her speed is always going to be really high, so you never really want to invest into that all too much because she needs the attack more than speed. However, you could always go with both, as I'll demonstrate in a second. But overall, Anna, even with bonus, isn't necessarily the best, especially when we have access to other newer units such as Ninja Hannah. But if for some reason you want to use her, now you can take her into Astra season. What really helps is that we have 2 attack mythics and a speed mythic which can help her even more. So for her first build we have Plug-in Axe with Noontime, Distant Counter, Spurn 3, Pulse Smoke, and Attack Speed solo. It's rather standard all things considered, and I've shown this off before. It's nothing new, but at the very least it's something you could give to her because of the fact that she has workable resistance and really good speed, meaning she can tank really well against mages. And thankfully most mages aren't really that bulky, so she can use her attack to her advantage alongside Plug-in Axe to raise it even more. So I would say this is probably going to be her better, like one of the better builds for her on offense, on bonus season of course. That's the one thing I've neglected to mention too. All these builds that have a bonus modifier will include the bonus. So normally it wouldn't be 53 attack, it'd be like 49 I believe, but because of bonus she can raise it even more. And then on the second build we have Ninja Masakari, Gale Force, Flashing Blade 4, Wings of Mercy 3, Times Pulse, and Life and Death. This is another build which will incorporate her ability to act as a Wings of Mercy Gale Force chainer with your main Gale Forcer. The Life and Death is really going to come in handy here too because it can help with Flashing Blade 4 checks and Times Pulse, which can help with Gale Force, meaning she's going to be able to get Gale Force off relatively easily on her bonus season. The attack boon is definitely going to be very important here. I would recommend personally that if you were going to run her as a Gale Force unit, that you absolutely need to make sure she has attack. And thankfully because Reagan is free, she should be able to get a free attack boost, which would be nice. And I would never really recommend giving her something like Heavy Blade because even with the blessings, I don't think it's as reliable. But it's another simple Gale Force sort of thing you could give her if you want on her bonus season. And then next we have Arena. Arena is going to be one of the more interesting places to take her because even as bonus, she still really sucks. But if you wanted to use her for scoring, which isn't necessarily the worst idea because she is a rotating bonus, you can always go with Springy Axe with Gale Force, Green Dual Infantry 4, No Follow-Up, Defense Smoke, and Flashing Blade 3. It's another Gale Force build, and with No Follow-Up, she should always be able to double. Springy Axe is actually a really good option for her here because she can easily stack up her attack and speed even more, on top of the fact that she can negate any penalties to attack and speed as long as the condition is met, and since it's a very easy condition to meet, she should be able to get her Gale Force off really well. However, she could potentially miss kills because as the weapon will only bring her to a base attack of 60 on bonus. My worry is that she will miss kills, but because it is arena and there's no HP inflation, it should still be fine, but it's something you should be forewarned about because she doesn't necessarily have the best attack still. Even so, she could still hit relatively well as long as everything is met and as long as you're running her on bonus. If she's not bonus, don't even bother. It's not worth it. And then if for some reason you want to use her as an arena assault check, you can run her with Emerald Axe, Ruptured Sky, Swift Sparrow 3, Lance Breaker, Odd Attack Wave, and Death Blow 3. The reason I took Emerald Axe is because I don't believe she has the attack stat to necessarily do all that well. Reds are going to mess her up regardless, so you're better off focusing on matchups that she could potentially struggle with anyway. With blues, I'm not sure about Brave Hector. Brave Hector is another unit that I would worry about. She might be able to enemy phase Hector with Lancebreaker and Emerald Axe. However, she will be missing out on Swift Sparrow and Death Blow. That being said, it is Triangle Adept, so it should be able to deal a hefty amount to any blue. Swift Sparrow 3 is also really nice because it can allow her to double more often. On Attack Wave is just so she can have not consistent buffs, but whenever possible, it allows her to raise her attacks so she can initiate on a foe without the need of having a rally behind her. And you could always just dance and get her out of there if you need to. It's another basic-ish build, sort of. The Ruptured Sky is there so she can potentially secure more one-round KOs, Swift Sparrow 3, more attack and speed. And then finally, if you like using her so much you use her in PvE, I got two builds. The first one is completely meme-worthy, which I would never recommend using, but I had a hard time trying to think of two good builds for Ana because, again, she really struggles, and because this is PvE, she has no access to extra bonus stats, meaning it's going to be even harder for her to output damage. So for the first build, I have Carrot Axe Plus, Escutcheon, Flashing Blade 4, Mystic Boost, Defense Smoke, and Mystic Boost again. This is just a meme build, so every time she initiates combat, she should be able to tank it relatively well, and then heal for 16 HP after combat. That's really the only reason I have this here. I thought it would be funny, but I don't really have anything else besides the huge fan build, which then again isn't necessarily the best either. There's just so little you can do with her, even with the plethora of axes, because of the fact that she just doesn't have the stats to compete. But for the second build, we have Huge Fan Plus, Glacies, Mirror Stance, Special Spiral, Joint Drive Attack, and Attack Speed Solo. This should help with her attack deficit, as well as help her tank even more and output damage. Huge Fan is there because it gets cooldown on every time she takes a hit. However, how many hits she can take, I'm not sure, especially against newer units who could probably mess her up relatively bad. However, this should allow her to take on dragons at the very least, and maybe mages if she needs to take hits. You got Mirror Stance 3, which can increase her attack and resistance even more. Special Spiral, so once you have the setup ready to go, she can always initiate combat with Glacies, Joint Drive Attack, and then Attack Speed Solo for more attack and speed. And that's really about it. Ana is still easily one of the worst units in the game, and trying to find some sort of niche for her is going to be hard. I will say I'm the most confident in her Aether Raids builds because they are way more consistent when bonus is around, but I don't think that she's someone you should really invest into unless you really like her. My hope for the future is that IS will give them merges in some way, shape, or form, because I think that if Ana were to get merges, she would probably be the best of the Asker trio. However, I need to reaffirm that between Alphonse and Sharena, because Sharena actually has a decent weapon. But yeah, that's Ana for you. Let me know what you think down below. If you liked it, make sure to like and subscribe. It's always appreciated. If you didn't like it, you can feel free to dislike it. Tell me what's wrong with it. What did I do wrong? Anything. I always like to hear what you have to say. And until next time, thanks for watching.